If you're okay with that, we'll go ahead and start recording. Your pictures will not be shown on here. Maybe your name, but not your pictures. So we'll go ahead and get started. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about financial planning, a little bit of background information about myself. I am a financial education coach with Prosperity Connection. I specialize in home ownership, lending, just a little bit of everything finance. Today, we're going to talk about financial planning, what it is, who should do it, how do we do it, what are the things that we should consider while doing it, just a little bit of everything. So to begin with the definition of financial planning. So it's an aspect where you examine your goals and they help you prioritize and save and invest for your actual financial goals. It's financial planning. So if I get my paycheck, or if I get my money, what do I do with it? How do I plan that out? For a lot of people, they think that only the very rich need to financially plan. They don't believe that people who are not making a large lump sum of money need to financially plan their funds. But in actuality, or in truth, you only need two pennies to rub together to decide where those two pennies are going to go or what they are going to pay for in order to benefit from financial planning. So there are some benefits to financial planning. One is that it'll help you define your financial goals. A lot of times we just go on in life, living day by day. We don't know what we're going to do, what we want to do. It's not a question we ask ourselves. But actually sitting down and financially planning your assets or your funds will help you determine what your financial goals are. Do I want to buy a house? Do I want to buy a car? Do I want to save a certain amount of money? Would I like to invest? What your actual financial goals are. It'll help you define those. It'll help you determine if those goals are realistic, especially for your timeline. So if I'm wanting to save $10,000 in 1 year, do I make enough money to let $10,000 go to savings instead of going towards bills? Or is my goal realistic? Should I adjust that so I'm more successful? So it helps in that case scenario. It'll also bring your spending in line with your goals. And this is very important. It kind of allows you to know if I'm doing a good job at saving for these goals. So if my goal is to save a certain amount of money or pay off my car sooner, if I'm eating out at fast food restaurants every single day and paying large lump sums for food and things that I could be saving money on by cooking at home, am I in line? Am I on track to reaching those goals as quickly or as efficiently as I can? Probably not if I am wasting excess money on certain things. It will also show what money mistakes you're currently making. It will allow you to measure your progress and your goals, so I can see if I'm halfway to my goal, my financial goal, or if I'm halfway to saving or halfway to paying something off. I can see where I am. Am I just at the beginning? Am I making progress? Is this working or is it not working? It will help you become more comfortable with your money. You'll be more confident. You'll be able to live comfortably. I know one thing that worked for me is that I didn't save. My savings account was very decorative for the beginning of my adult life. It was something I had to open up in order to get the checking account. But as I start learning to put money in and to save, things became a lot less stressful for me. When it came time to get a car repair or an unexpected bill popped up or a medical bill or something, I had the funds to pay that. So I felt comfortable. I felt like I didn't have to last minute worry about where I was going to pull those funds to pay those bills. So financial planning helped me in that aspect alone. And you can build wealth. So building wealth is one thing that I always say that it's important, but it's very individually based on what you consider wealth, what kind of financial wealth you consider. Is it being financially wealthy in stocks, or is it being financially wealthy in savings or investments, or really what is your actual wealth? And then it will help you build that. But defining your goal and figuring out what kind of wealth you want to build is also very important. So steps, how do I financially plan? It's really simple. It's really basic. So the very first thing that you do is you identify your goals. What are my goals? That's probably the hardest step. So what are my goals? What do I want to do? Do I want to buy my home? Do I want to buy rental property? Do I want to invest in stocks? Do I want to save money? What is my actual goal? Do I want to become debt free? Is there a time in my life where I want to get my paycheck and only have to pay my utilities? And not have to pay for my mortgage because that's paid off, not have to pay for my car because that's paid off, and I can keep more of my check. Whatever your goals are, identify them first. And then you want to collect all of your financial data. and put it all together. I want to collect all of my bills. I want to collect all of my income, and I want to balance them out to see if I even have money left over afterwards to save. I want to know if I am exceeding what I make in my paycheck, or if I'm, or if I have money left over after my paycheck and my bills are paid, because I can't spend $3,500 every month if I only make $3,000. Or am I making $3,500 a month and I'm only spending $2,000? Where's the extra money? Because I don't see an extra $1,000, $2,000 in my savings account or my checking account every month. Where's that money going? So it's collecting all of your financial data, seeing what you're responsible for paying, putting that together with your income, and determining if I have money afterwards to kind of plan towards these financial goals. And when you do so, you want to make sure that you're developing short-term, intermediate, and long-term plans. So all three. And your short-term plans can build up to that long-term plan. The short-term plan can be starting a home ownership class, and saving money for a down payment, and building my credit. Those are short-term goals. And then initially, maybe the long-term goal is buying that house that you've worked these short-term goals for. They could be related, they can be unrelated, but starting somewhere and knowing that I need to have different ranks so that all my goals feel appropriate for the time that I'm giving them. Building and following a budget is a common first step for a lot of people. It's a common short-term step. Let me start with my budget. Let me list my income. Let me list my bill. Let me balance those. That's a common first step. And then put your plan into effect and see how it's going. 6 is important because you always want to make sure you monitor that plan, you adjust when it's necessary, and you update in responses to life. That's really important because you don't want to throw the whole thing away just because something didn't work out. You have to know that your plan is adjustable. If I am saving a certain amount of money and every pay period I put $100 in the savings account, if something happens where I receive a $100 unexpected bill, I'm going to go ahead and pay that bill. But I don't want to just say, oh, this bill came up, I couldn't save the money this month, everything's, just throw it all away. I can't do that. I have to know that my bill is adjustable. And maybe I might want to say, well, maybe each pay period, I'll add an extra $25 until I'm caught up. Or maybe I'll extend my goals deadline by 1 month to allow me to put this money back in and stay on track. So make sure that you adjust your goals as things happen in life. So the types of goals are short-term, intermediate, and long-term goals. A short-term goal is anything that takes less than a year. They could be creating a budget, saving a certain amount of money. That could be a lot of things within that short-term goal. Intermediate goals are anything between 1 to 5 years. They can be saving a larger amount of money. They can be paying off my car. They can be paying off my student loans. Whatever you feel you can do in 1 to 5 years, that is your intermediate goal. And I also wanted to do a really cool vision board class. Maybe we'll do that when we come back in person. But to help you determine what your short-term, intermediate, and long-term goals is, creating a vision board so you have that up on your wall as a constant reminder of what you're working towards. But also long-term, anything that is 5 years and beyond, and that can be investing in property, invested in cryptocurrency, investing in stocks, investing in whatever it is that you want to do, or investing in your retirement. We're all going to need money when we get older. We're all not going to be able to work when we get older. Retirement is scary, right? It's the time in your life where your body cannot physically go out and get you any more money. If you had a problem now and you really needed to go out and get some money, you can cut grass, you can go find a job, you can beg, you can find a way to be resourceful. But when you get to retirement, your body's kind of tired. It's not moving as quickly as it used to. A lot of things are hurting. But at that time, it's scary because now you know that your body is not going to be as resourceful as it was before. So we want to make sure that we save and we invest for our retirement. We want to make sure that we have money for later on. It's really hard when you get to retirement and realize that you only get like an $800 Social Security check, yet you have not purchased a home or anything else like that. So you have to pass that over for rent. And what do you do for your utilities? What do you do for your phone bill, any cable, Netflix, any other things that you feel are necessities to you? How do you pay for those things when you only have enough to pay for your rent? So financial planning and investing is making sure that I plan out my money to last my lifetime, right? So one thing that we always want to do is we want to make sure that our goals are SMART. We want to make sure that they're very specific. So I know what I want to save, when I want to save it, what I want to have, when I want to have the full amount by, when I want this goal to be completed. We want to make sure that it's measurable. For instance, if I want to save $600 in 3 months, that lets me know that I need to save $200 per month. And if I'm paid bi-weekly, that means I need to save $100 bi-weekly. That is how I'm going to measure out reaching that goal. We want to make sure they're adjustable. Again, life happens. We want to make sure that we can accommodate all of, the occurrences that happen in our lifestyle without canceling out our budget or our SMART goals. And we want to make sure they're realistic. And I say this all the time. Don't say you want to save $1 million in 1 year if you don't make $1 million in 1 year. Let's make sure that it's realistic. Let's make sure that we understand that if I make $60,000 a year, that I can't save $60,000 a year just because I make $60,000. There are taxes, there are living expenses like maybe mortgage or rent, lights, utilities, phone bills, cars, gas. There's a lot of things that will stop you from saving that amount. So what you really want to do is you want to list all your income, you want to list all of your bills, see what you have left over after paying those bills, and determine how much you can afford to save. One of the biggest problems is that we're never realistic with ourselves. It sometimes becomes a point where we want to save and we end up wanting to save so bad that we oversave. And oversaving hurts you more than one way. It's not hurting you that I'm putting too much money in the savings and I have to go back in and get money out when I realize that I've run out of money. That hurts because now I'm not saving if I'm pulling money out. But it also kind of hurts that now I've created this habit where I feel like it's okay to pull funds out of my savings account. When you create that habit that it's okay to pull funds out of your savings account, it kind of deflects with you being able to save, because now you're like, okay, well, I have this money in my checking account, this money in my stock drawer, this money in my savings account, and you start including your savings money as your everyday spending money. And we don't want to create that habit. And for people who have created that habit, they end up having to open up a bank farther from their home just to keep themselves from spending that money and actually saving it, because now they have to take this hour-long guilt drive to get the funds from this account. And most of the time they realize it's not worth it and they, revert. So with that, we want to make sure our goals are realistic, and we also want to make sure that they are time oriented. I tell people all the time, I am the person at Thanksgiving where I walk in and everybody's like, oh goodness gracious, here comes the financial counselor for the family. So yeah, somebody has to do it. It's always me. So I walk in one year and I asked my sister, I said, hey, are you saving money? And she was like, well, no, but next year at Thanksgiving, I'm going to have some money saved. And I said, okay, I'll leave her alone. Well, a year came by really fast. It's Thanksgiving and I walk up, and when she sees my face is when I realizes that she realizes that I'm about to ask her what she saved. So I asked her, I said, well, did you save? What did you save? She was like, well, I have about $26 in my savings account. I couldn't say anything because actually she did save. However, it didn't feel as successful to her because her goals weren't SMART. They weren't specific about how much she wanted to save. She didn't measure out how she was going to get to that goal. Of course, life happens, and she did not adjust them. Maybe her goals weren't realistic if she had any, but they also definitely weren't time oriented when they could have been set on a year out for the next time we have that conversation. So what we want to do is we want to always make sure that our goals are SMART goals. The most important thing that you'll ever know about a budget is that it includes everything. Everything goes into your budget. A lot of times when people are budgeting, they kind of just say, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just figure out what my bills are, and that's my budget. But it's not. Everything needs to go into your budget. I have to allow money for my bills. I have to allow money that I'm going to blow or that use for miscellaneous purposes. I have to put everything in there. Even though I don't know what all my entertainment is going to be for the month, I have to put a certain amount of money allotted to that expense. So if I don't, then I'm just going to end up not having enough funds, not having enough money. So you definitely always want to make sure that you include your bills in there, you include your savings in your budget, you include your miscellaneous funds, everything that you're going to do, you include everything. At the end of doing your budget, the balance remaining from your paycheck should be $0. It should be $0 remaining from your paycheck. And what that means is that every dollar is accounted for, whether it went to savings, whether it went to entertainment or miscellaneous or emergency savings. And there are some banks that allow you to break your savings down, where you have a savings for this person, a purpose, a savings for this purpose, emergency savings, long-term savings, rainy day savings, where you can break those down into different things so you can save into all of them, but make sure that all your money has a purpose, all your money has a destination, and that nothing is just idle, nothing is just extra or left over. So when you're creating a successful budget, again, you want to list all your income, you want to list all your expenses, you want to balance them. You want to determine if I'm spending more than I make, or if I make more than I spend and don't know where that money's going. And you always want to review, communicate, and adjust. Be realistic with yourself. Have this interpersonal conversation with yourself about what you want and how you're going to get to that goal. And then work your system. Again, when one thing goes wrong, it does not mean throw the whole budget away, throw the whole plan away. Adjust it. Make sure that it fits your needs. This is your budget. And know that it's going to benefit you whether you're adjusting it. Way better than it's going to benefit you if you throw it away and don't have one at all. When you are making financial informed decisions, you always want to make sure that you are weighing the pros and cons. Any financial decision you make, whether it's to purchase a car or buy a house, invest into a stock, whatever it is, you always want to make sure that you are weighing the pros and cons to that. What is the potential pitfall of that? What is the list of benefits? What can I gain from this? Is it worth the risk? Always know what risk you're taking and determine if it's worth that risk. If you decide to take a risk, make sure you know what your risk tolerance is. Make sure you understand how much this is going to cost me and how quick it's going to take me to make that money back up. Ask yourself if this is something I really need or I really want. A lot of times what we do is we go through these phases of impulse buys. And some of them are emotional spending, because emotional spending feels good. When I feel really bad, it feels really good to get new things. Let's be honest. But we also want to recognize what we're doing and decide if it's healthy for us financially at that moment. There are also other impulse buys, such as upgrading your phone. Phones are not what they used to be. When I had my very first phone, it was a Nokia. It didn't fold, bend, flip, swivel. It didn't do any of that. It actually had wood grain on it. It could fall a million times. I could put the battery back in and it'll still be working. Screen did not break. That's the phone I had. And at that time, they were offering phones free. If you agree to stay with us for a year or two, we'll give you the phone for free. You don't have to do anything. Might I add that the battery lasted like 2 weeks before you had to recharge it. Obviously, it didn't do much, but still, it lasted a long time. Now we have phones. In the new iPhone, it's like $1,500 every time they put out a new one, and that's annually. Think about that expense every year, upgrading to that new phone, either paying for it in full or adding a new payment plan just to have the latest phone. Do I need the latest phone? Did the phone stop working? Those type of questions you really want to ask yourself. Am I doing this because I need a new phone, or I just want the latest? And if I want the latest, is it worth it? Or falling prey to clever marketing advertisements and social pressure to keep up. There are clever marketing advertisements. And the biggest one that I always mention is actual credit cards. Typically they were for emergency purposes. I got a flat, I want to replace my tire and not pay this off when I get paid, those type of purposes. Well, I know a lot of credit card companies start realizing that people aren't having emergencies every day, all the time for everybody. How do we make money if they're not using money? If they're being careful and only using this for emergency purposes, how do we get money out of them? So what they decided to do is they said, how about we do this? We create a rewards program that is going to encourage them to spend more and more and more. That we're going to give them 5% back on gas, 3% back on restaurants and grocery stores, 1% back on everything else. And let's see them shop. And people end up spending $1,000 on their credit card because they have commercials out with people fighting over paying the bills, and it looks nice, looks fancy, just so they can get points back. And they have everybody around dancing that they're getting rewards back, but they end up spending like $1,000 and they make like $17 in cash back rewards. But now if they can't pay that $1,000 down, they're going to have to pay like $50 in interest. And then next month, if they can't pay it down, like $45 in interest. And then the following month, if they only was able to make the minimum payment, another $40 in. By the time you're finished paying that off, you'd pay hundreds of dollars in interest, but at least you got that $17 in cash back. So a lot of times it don't make sense, but the clever marketing makes it look like it does make sense to do so. So making sure that we determine now, do we really need something, or do we really want something? And then whatever it is that we're deciding that we need or want, Are they trying to convince me to spend more money? Should I be spending money for this, or is it dedicated to something else? Making sure that you can protect yourself from emotional purchases. For example, if something breaks and you're in a panic that it's broken, you go to the first place. I, for one, would tell people that I was driving on the highway and one of the cement trucks kicked something off in my window. When it kicked something off in my window, it broke. I was in a panic, right? So I called around to 14 window places, glass window places. 13, the first 13 told me that I would have to pay about $380. I got a tidbit from someone that said to go to one of the places on the Rock Road and get they have really good deals. I called them. This is the 14th place that I called. Everybody else said around 380 or up. This place told me that I will only have to pay 210. So just by calling around, taking my time, and not just jumping on the first thing that I called because I was in a panic and my window's broken and I'm emotional, I saved hundreds of dollars just by double checking. Of course, you're like, okay, well, cheaper is not always better. That's true. But I did ask them why their prices were cheaper than the first 13 people that I called. And they said, because we buy all of our stuff in bulk. They buy it when you order it, which costs more, but we buy it in bulk, which means we always have them lying around. We can save the, we can transfer the savings onto the customers in that way. So it was a manufacturer glass, the same exact one that took off, they put on. So with that, making sure that you are not just buying things because you're stressed. Keeping up with the Joneses. A lot of times we do disregard that this came from Fight Club, but we do buy things that we don't need with money we don't have to impress people we don't like. It's something that we've been doing for a long time. For a lot of people, it's habit, generational habit. Let's not try and please people. Let's try and have more money. If you notice that the people who have the most money are the people who buy the less things, right? They don't need all of the new fancy gadgets and clothes and shoes and things. And it's also making sure that the money that you have, you're getting your value out of it. How much value do you want to give it? Not how much value is society placing on it. Like phones, I feel like a phone has its benefits. And we do want the nicer ones, but it's not an emergency that I get a new iPhone every year. I don't think that's an important thing for me, which might differ from other people, but making sure that we are only doing it because we need it or we like it, not to impress other people by having it. So small expenses, right? That's a huge part of what we do, small expenses every day. So if you go and you get this fancy Starbucks drink, every day, it's $5. It's so good, I just have to have one every single day. Well, there's 365 days in a year. If I get this drink every single day, I'm going to spend $1,825 on just this Starbucks drink. I don't know a person alive who couldn't use the extra $18.25 a year. I don't. But it kind of highlights the fact that we think that something is, oh, it's just $5. But it's a lot of $5. We don't see the bigger picture when we're buying those small expenses. And a lot of times when I'm talking to the children, when I do the youth classes, I'm like, okay, well, it might not be Starbucks, but maybe it's I stop by the corner store every day on my way home from school and I get chips and soda and a candy bar. That's your small expense. Whatever your small expense is, it does add up. It's just making sure we're cautious of those. So what we initially want to do is we want to avoid putting off financial decisions. So if my job is matching my retirement contribution. So if they say, oh, we'll do a 401k plan, it will match. If you put in 3% of your income, we'll put in 3% of your income. Don't put this off. This is a good deal, right? You meaning to tell me that I'm going to put in 3% of my income, you're going to put in 3% of your income, and when I get old, I'm going to spend it all. So it's like making sure that you take advantage of those retirement plans and savings plans, and you start early. It's never too late to start saving, but you start early because, like I said, once you get to retirement, it's scary. Your body cannot physically go out and make you any more money. This is something you are doing for yourself. I want to make sure that I'm financially comfortable later on in life. So we put them off because we feel like we can't afford them, when in actuality, we need to find a way to increase our income to make sure we can. Being aware of financial risk, if a loss is taken, how much time and how much money is it going to take to recoup from that loss? And when I find out how much that is that okay with me? And disregard FOMO, fear of missing out. Realign your priorities. You don't always need to have the best car, the newest phone. Honestly, I don't want the best car. I am fearful that somebody's going to take it from me because they're going to realize it's the best car. But but making sure that I realign my priorities. Is it reliable? Does it not just look good, but does it work? Is it good quality materials? Is it driving like a Toyota or a Honda, like forever and ever? Does it have that type of engine? Am I getting my money out of this item? So a lot of times we don't know, but when we financially plan, you can take it a step farther and you can use the accounting equation. The accounting equation is what they use to determine how much somebody is worth. It's one of my favorite assignments to do, but it is figuring out your net worth. So how many times have you been up at like 2 o'clock in the morning and you realize that, oh, well, Beyonce is worth more than Jay-Z. Her net worth is this or this net worth. Just finding random things to look up in the middle of the night. I know I do it, but realizing that you yourself have your own net worth. You have a net worth. I don't know if it's positive or negative, but you have one. And figuring out what your net worth is might motivate you to keep pushing to increase your assets. So the way you to figure this out is that you have to know that your assets, that is everything that I have, that is money and savings, that is if I have a car, if I own a home, how much money I have in general, those are my assets. My liabilities are my bills, the things that I owe. Do I have student loan debt? Do I have mortgage debt? Do I have car loan debt? Do I have personal loan, credit card debt? These are my liabilities. And then whatever is the difference between the assets and the liabilities is my owner's equity. So basically, when I weigh this out, I want to list all of my assets and see how much those are. And then I want to list all of my liabilities and see how much that is. Are my liabilities higher than my assets, or are my assets higher than my liabilities? If I have assets of $3,000 and liabilities of $1,500, I am worth $1,500. If I have assets of $1,500 and liabilities are $3,000, the difference between those is $1,500. I'm worth a negative $1,500 in net worth. So making sure that you keep up with how much you're worth. I do this all the time, and I love to see my numbers increase. I love to feel like I'm coming out of debt and that I'm building up. Now, I'm no Beyonce. I'm no Beyonce. I don't have her type of money, but I have a few dollars, and that excites me. So another part, and this, we're not going to go too in-depth in credit. Credit is very important because the better the credit you have, the less you spend for the things you need, which allows you more money to financially plan. So I included it in this presentation, but we're not going to go too deep. I believe we do a monthly credit class, and we also have recordings. If you go to YouTube, you can find our Prosperity Connection page and watch all of our recordings. We have multiple ones on credit. If you are interested in going into a very detailed, but just off the top, what's in the credit report, just some identifying information, your name, your social, your address, your date of birth, creditors that you paid in the past, employment history if you've recorded that on the application, any bankruptcies, anytime you've applied for credit. Lenders look at it to determine if they want to give you a loan. Landlords look at it to determine if they want to allow you to rent their property. Sometimes potential employers will look at your credit report to make sure you're not high risk, depending on the type of work that you're doing. For example, they pulled mine when I worked for the IRS. And then financial institutions will pull it when they want to allow you to come into their financial institution, open up an account. Insurance company will also use it to determine what kind of rate they're going to give you. And we know that there's 3. There's Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. You can always go to annualcreditreport.com and get your credit report. One from each credit bureau annually, but they will not give you a score. And if you sign up for a free trial to get your score, make sure you cancel it by the 7 days. Okay, so your credit score is just like, you remember when you were in high school and you got a GPA based on how well you did in class, in each of your classes. This is the same way. It's like a financial GPA. It's based on how well you do on the things that are on your credit report. How well do I do with my payment history? How well do I do with keeping my balances in control on my credit cards? How well do I do with those things? The lowest is 300. So it's almost like they give you 300. The max is 850. And between that minimum and that max is 550 points that you can get on your own. You don't need 850 for anything. I pulled thousands of credit reports, not seeing one 850. You do not need 850 for anything. Honestly, if you get like 110 points less than 850, so if you get like a 740, you can get the lowest interest rate that most financial institutions offer locally. Honestly, 100 points less than that 740, you can buy a house. So you don't really need to get that max, and there is room for error without feeling like you can't finance anything. And as you know, how you get those 550 points on your own, 35% payment history. How well am I making my payments on time? 30% credit utilization. How much of my credit am I using? Are my credit card balances high? 15% is length of credit. Credit age. Am I opening and closing accounts, or I'm opening accounts and showing how stable I can be, the longevity of those accounts. New credit. Anytime I apply for credit, I take a hit. This is inquiries. And how well do I do with the credit mix? How well do I do with my unsecured debt and my secured debt, my revolving and my installment? And that determines what kind of score you have. Now, the reason that this is important is because this is like a consumer rate sheet. This is a generic version, but this is what it looks like when you go in and you apply for a loan, depending on what your score is across the top. So if you can look all the way into the A category and scroll down to the second box set, if I were to buy a car that was a 2017 to a 2020, at 63 months or 5 years, I could get a 3.79% interest rate if my score is 740. With that same car, if I have 570 credit score or below, I'll be all the way in the pink category to the right with a 16.99% interest rate. And I know you probably think like, what is the difference? Well, this is the difference. To buy that car for $15,000 at 5 years at a 3.79% interest rate, my monthly payment is going to be $275 every month. That means that over the life of the loan, I'm going to pay $15,000 for the principal. That's for the actual car. And for them giving me a loan and a car right now without me having paid them, I have to pay interest. That is the fee that I pay for taking the car without having the money. That's $1,490. So $1,490 for getting this car today. That's going to be spread out over my payments for my vehicle. Well, if I wanted to buy that same exact car, but instead of the 3.79% interest rate, I had to get the 16.99% because my credit score is lower. So you get a higher rate. Now my payment, instead of being $275, is going to be about $375 or $373, $2 off from $375. So about $98 more every month for 60 months, solely because my score is lower for the same exact car. So I'm going to pay the $15,000 in principal because I still have to pay them for the car that I've taken. But in interest, for the 16.99%, I'm going to pay $7,362 for a total of $22,000. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. That's $6,000 more than I would have paid if I had a better score and a better interest rate. What can I do with an extra $100 I can save? That means that in 5 years I can save $6,000. I mean, if I had that extra $100 in my pocket. So it plays a really important thing. So if you are not sure where your score is, you are not sure if you're doing a good job or how much you're paying for the thing. So if you're wanting to refinance for a lower interest rate and a lower payment on your car, your house, please make sure that you reach out to one of our financial coaches and set up an appointment to discuss where you stand, where you're going, and how to get there, so that we can make sure we're saving as much money as possible. So we have that to financially plan with. I want to always make sure that you guys are aware of the credit repair clinics. There are a lot of credit repair clinics that are promising that they can repair your credit. With that, it's kind of an aspect where they will allow you to come in and they will tell you that you have to let all your debts go delinquent so that we can negotiate them, because most creditors won't negotiate a debt if it's not delinquent. And then you're paying a middle person to pay those people for you. It's just a hectic thing when it's something you can do for yourself with the support of a coach. Be wary of predatory lenders. These are payday lenders. We saw how much more you were going to pay if you had that 16.99% interest rate on that car. Envision a payday lender with a 500% interest rate, 500%, not 16.99%, not 3.79, but 500% on a personal payday loan. That is excessive. Understanding what a good interest rate is very important. It's crucial. So yes, they're popping up all over our neighborhoods. We still want to make sure we avoid them at all costs if we can. If we do find ourselves in a payday loan, please reach out to your local financial institution and see if they have any consolidation programs or products for your payday loan. Rent to own is similar. It's the case scenario where I'm paying interest to have this couch today, but I end up paying maybe $3,000 over 3 years for a couch that only would have cost me $800 because the interest rate is super high. So making sure we don't fall prey to that. Honestly, I would rather just save up the $800 in a couple of months and buy a couch. Title loans, pawn shops, where they offer you a lot of something, a little money for your items, but if you don't come back in and pay on those, they're going to sell them at a higher amount. It's how they make their money. It's how they keep business going. Title loans are the same as payday loans, but you put your car up for it, which means that you can go in and borrow $500 at a really high interest rate, not be able to pay it off because you didn't have the $500 that you had to come and borrow. You already needed money, but not have the money to pay it off. And they can own your $15,000, $20,000 vehicle, all because you couldn't pay back $500. Be very wary of those. High interest debt consolidation companies, same as credit repair clinics, but they promise to help you reduce that debt. Debt settlement companies that will have you wait for all your debt to go delinquent so that they can negotiate those terms. Be very wary of the cons of it. Risk tolerance, making sure we know how much we want to risk, what we are not willing to risk, and stand within those lines. And then understanding your type of investments. Financial planning also includes investments. What kind of investments would you like to plan for? What about IRAs? Those are like individual retirement accounts where you save money annually. And it's tax-free once you turn 59 and a half years old at the moment. Or 401k plans where you are able to contribute to these, your employer can contribute to these for retirement, extra funds for retirement, alongside of that Social Security check that we may or may not have when we get to that point. Pensions, this is something that the job pays for solely, that you get after working up for a certain period of time once you retire from this company. So it's not something that you have to pay into. A lot of companies are not offering pensions. They're offering 401ks in place of pensions, so that it puts the responsibility of saving on the employer, but sometimes the employee, but sometimes they will match. Stocks, do I want to invest in stocks or property investments or cryptocurrency? And then there's some banking investments. Now, not a lot of banks still do savings bonds, but savings bonds are a bond where you can go in and you can loan the bank like $100. They will pay you interest monthly until the maturity date, whatever that maturity date is, if whether it's 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. They will pay you interest until the maturity comes, and then you get the value, the face value of that savings bond back. Certificates of deposit, and sometimes you may hear them as CDs. These are certificates issued by the bank. I go in and I say, hey, I got $5,000 that I'm not planning on using no time soon. I want to put it in a year certificate. So they're going to make this money unavailable to me. It is going to sit in a certificate, but they're going to pay me interest, and it's going to be more interest than my savings accounts make or any of my other accounts is making, solely because it's locked. If I wanted to do something like that, but I didn't want my money locked, I don't want it to be completely unavailable. Depending on how much money I have to put in, I might be able to open up a money market account where it is earning more interest in my savings account, but I'm limited to 3 withdrawals per month. And I have to have $10,000 to have this account gain interest. Those type of deals where I'm still making more money, but I at least have that breathable moment that is not locked. Make sure that when you go into the bank and you open up an account that you're very familiar with the rates. Is my savings account giving me any money back, any interest back? Am I making any interest off of my checking account? And do they have CDs, and do I want to participate in those CDs, and for how much and for how long? Making sure that you know that most savings accounts have interest burn features where you can make money back. So this might even be something that's important to you depending on where you want to go and open up an account. I might want to go and open up an account at Navy Federal if they have better rates, return rates on the interest return rates on the savings account. I might want to go there because they have the better rates, and I might want to put the bulk of my money there, but I might choose a different bank for a different reason. But making sure that you go through and you look at how much those things are going to give you a return. So we talked about pensions, and that's something that your job pays. And it's a defined plan benefit, which means that you don't have to pay for this. This is a benefit to you. Your job is paying for it. You qualify when you retire from your job. Stocks, making sure you understand the risk at stocks. With stocks, it's hard because you can put money in and you can lose everything or you can win everything. But you have to be able to put money in that you can afford to lose. Making sure you know that risk tolerance with stocks. If I put in $4,000, how comfortable am I with losing that $4,000? Because it's a possibility. So just knowing what type of investments you want. Sometimes people want less riskier investments, and that's okay. They might say, I want to invest in property, in real estate. At least I know I have the physical property. Maybe I will buy this property from the county sheriff website, and then I might pay $5,000 for it, take out a $30,000 loan to fix it up, and then have the $30,000 mortgage, and have people rent this out. And once they finish paying me in rent and I finish paying out the property, everything else I get to pocket. This is a long-term investment, right? So with this, I can definitely see how this is working. When I'm ready to sell the property as a whole, I can do that, but this is always going to bring me money in. And then cryptocurrency, and it's kind of just the internet-based medium of exchange, where they have a different currency. It's a different currency, but it allows you to invest in stocks and different things online. So with their spending plans and spending tips, you always want to make sure that you plan according for what your income is now. I know there's a lot of people that know when they're getting a raise and they start counting their money before they get it. Make sure that you always plan according to what you have now, because what if that raise doesn't come and you plan for it? Also, anytime we get a raise, we always want to refigure our budget on where that money is going to go, but we want to know how much it is, and we want to confirm that it's coming in before we do that. But while at the same time, you still want to plan ahead for 6 months, but just make sure you do it on what your income is at that moment. But planning ahead for at least 6 months, it kind of gives you an idea of what these 6 months are going to look like. And then you also want to include some spending money for each family member. It's not realistic to cut out entertainment costs out of your budget. It's the first thing to go when people are doing a budget, because they need water, they need electricity. I don't know about y'all, but I like having running water in my house. I like having lights. I like having my utilities paid. I like having internet, because we need that for a lot of things. These are things that I need. But what about the things that I want? A lot of times we try and cut out all of our wants, but it's unrealistic to believe that you can live with no wants without feeding into that one aspect. So making sure that we always leave money for that. If you have children, understanding that they need things, whether they come home and they're doing a fundraiser, or they come home and they say, I need this for my senior sweats, or I need, making sure that you include that money, so that money is not missing from your actual budget when you're looking for like where your money went. And set aside some money for maintenance on all major things. Know that there is a point where your refrigerator is supposed to run until it's no longer running. Your stove might go out. Your car repair might need repairs. Things that have to be maintenance regularly. Make sure that you keep money for those in a separate account. Make sure you always pay yourself first. I tell people all the time, pay yourself first. I know everybody's preaching it. Please pay yourself first. It is important. I will tell you that I never paid myself first. And I was a teller at the credit union. And this one guy came in and he had more money than I ever seen anybody have. And my initial thought was like, who left him this money? Like, what happened? Like, I don't really think that people just save money. It didn't dawn on me that you can save money. It's not, we never had money to save growing up. So I didn't know it was something that you could actually do. Nothing was left over out of paychecks growing up. So I'm looking through the account and I see that this person is coming in every pay period and paying themselves $200, $300. I actually had the nerve to get mad. I got mad at that person. That person didn't know I got mad at them, but I really got mad because it didn't dawn on me that you can save money until that point. Ever since then, I've been paying myself first, and I've been blessed because of it. So making sure that you always take the opportunity to pay yourself first is very important. Making sure that the entire household is on board with your plan. If you have your spouse, the worst thing to do is to try and save money and budget it and get on track financially and have your spouse still living in the old ways and not understanding what your goals are, so they can't help you with your goals. Making sure that everybody in the house know that, look, I'm cutting back on a few things. I'm working towards this savings goal. I'm building on this, so that everybody knows what you're doing, so they don't influence you to do otherwise. So benefits, it frees up time. Less stress. I cannot stress that enough. I go in the dealership when my car needs a repair, and instead of crying because I don't have the money to give them for the repairs, I just want them to take my money quickly so I can start my healing process. But it's definitely less stress than not having the money and wondering where it's going to come from. It keeps you focused and increases your ability to achieve your goals. When you do something often, you kind of change your mindset into whatever that thing is that you're doing often. For example, we had a lot of people come into the bank and they was just sit in the middle and talk finances. A lot of people that go to the same bank would just meet up on a certain day, do their banking, and they would sit in the middle and they would talk finance. These people knew every product that we offered. They knew every service. They knew what they wanted to do. They was on the train when they come in and they say, I'm going to put money into these club accounts. These people did that because they spent so much time inside of the bank. They started living a bank life. So making sure that you stay focused, the more and more you do your budget, the more comfortable you get with it, the more it becomes a regular thing in your life. Having greater control of your life. It makes you aware of what's going on with your money. Where's my money going? We had a lot of people that used to eat their money and come in and yell at us for not having their money. And we have to sit down and do the uncomfortable thing and go over their whole monthly schedule with them and say, okay, well, this is what happened. You first went to McDonald's, you left McDonald's and went to Applebee's, and then you left Applebee's and went to Baskin Robbins. And then when the next day you went to Red Lobster, but y'all also went to the steakhouse that night, and you have to show them that they ate their money. Managing your money, you don't have to worry where it's went. You know exactly where it's going because you're telling them where to go. And it helps you organize your spending, your savings, make better decisions. You can decide in advance how your money is going to work for you. And anytime you think there's going to be any potential problems, you get those early warning signs by understanding what your finances are. So that is all I have today for financial planning. I do want to open up the floor to see if anyone have any questions. Let me stop recording.